Hi, this is Dan with DoubleCheck. Let's jump right in. We're going to start with the dashboard. So here's the dashboard view of someone that's using DoubleCheck quite a bit. The summary across the top just gives a recap. In this case, there's 11 active checklists. There's 12 priority tasks, and the priority tasks are identified by color. You have the ability within each checklist to mark a task red, which is urgent, yellow, which is important, green, which is completed. Red obviously means like hit the brakes, you got a big problem, you need to really pay attention to this one. And yellow is more like the caution tape, pay attention here as well. So urgent and important tasks. You have, in this particular case, this user has 12 priority tasks. You also up here at the top have the ability to browse the library of pre-built checklists. The tab to the far right allows you to invite a new user, which we hope you use that tab a lot. You also have the ability to get to the library down here when you go to open up new checklists. So we'll come back and talk about that in a minute. Additionally, this view, the dashboard view, shows you all the checklists that happen to be open here, and you can sort them any number of ways. Right now I have it sorted oldest first, but you can sort it newest first or alphabetical, A to Z or Z to A, just whatever makes it easier for you to find it. The filter by owner is a feature that's really designed for a staff person, a shared assistant that's working with a whole bunch of different people that own checklists. Because what this does is allows you to go through and say, I just want to see the checklist from one particular person. So in this case, these are Janice's checklists, or I can choose to see just mine or everybody. So that's what that filter is for. Obviously over here you just have a summary, kind of give you an idea of how you're doing on all your checklists. An important consideration here is we're only showing the tasks, the red and yellow and green, for this particular user, which here is me, Dan, and so it's only my tasks. It doesn't show me the status of tasks for other users. I can see that on an individual checklist, but this summary is for the purpose of knowing how many really urgent things I need to get to work on. So let's just jump in and start using one of these checklists. So here's a Ruby Sue Johnson, and to use it, you just click on it. And here is the checklist. We start at the top here. We have the ability to change how these are sorted. We can sort them in the default order, which is the order in which it was built, and typically that's a chronological order. The status order allows you to put the urgent and important items, show those at the top, and then the date will take any task that has a date assigned to it and move those up to the top. So we'll show you examples of those as we go along here. The filter allows you to filter it by who tasks are assigned to. And again, right now there's nobody assigned to the tasks here. And then hide completed. If we have a task that's completed, we have the option to hide it here. So let's show you how easy this is to do. Over here on the left, we have the ability to set the priority. So we mark something red, as we mentioned, that's urgent. I can mark it yellow, that's important. And I can mark something else green, and that means it's completed, which, to go up here and remind you, we can choose to hide the completed items, and that way that green's not showing. Click it again, and the green is showing. So I'm going to mark one more item red here. And this gets back to this sort. Now if I go up here to the sort, and I choose to sort it by status, it puts the two urgent items at the top, the important item underneath that. So this way, if I have a number of items marked red, or important and urgent, I can have them show at the top of my list so I can focus on what's really important to get done. Let's go back to the default status here. So that's the status color. The checkbox allows you to mark multiple items. We refer to this as the batch function. So for example, I can select 3 items, choose to mark those all complete, or I delete the items, or I can reassign them to a single user. On the individual task itself, you notice as I hover over the task, a pencil shows up over here. I can mark that, and this allows me to edit a particular task any way I'd like. Now, here's the really cool stuff. Here's where we get to assign tasks to other collaborators. So when you click on the name, you have other collaborators that I've already selected here, or I can add new. And if I add new, I can come up here and put somebody's email. So anyone I've worked with already in the past is going to show up here. Once someone has agreed to work with me, they're going to show up in this pull-down menu. It makes it really easy to add them. So if I want to add Janice as a collaborator, I can do that. And I'm going to add her as a partial collaborator. I have two choices, partial collaborator and a full collaborator. So I'm going to show you the differences here real quick. Jump in here, add member, and you see Janice immediately went to active. If I had entered someone's email address that I haven't worked with in the past, then I click add member, they would show up down here, but they would show pending instead of active. I wouldn't be able to add them to my checklist until they had received the invitation and accepted it. Once they've accepted it, it will change from pending to active, and at that point I can start adding them. So let's close this and come back in here. And what you're going to see now is I can come up here and I can assign a task to Janice. I could again use this function where I select multiple and say, well, let's assign all of those to Janice as well. So now you can see I've got tasks assigned to other people, which, as I mentioned earlier, allows me to use this filter and say, I just want to see what Janice has to do. Deselect it to see everybody. So that's how you can use the assignments here. You also have the ability to add dates. Now I'm going to come down here and use this. We have a section here because this is a contract where we have key dates. So let's say mutual acceptance was the 17th, and the earnest money then needs to be deposited today. And the financing application, let's say there was a financing application, that has to be completed by the 23rd. You have to know your contract dates, what days weekends apply, or what have you. We don't have the appraiser, but let's say the inspection has already been scheduled. So we can say that schedule is for the 25th. The inspection response, the latest date for the inspection response is going to be the 29th, and so on. We can add all the dates that we'd like to here. Contract closing date. Let's go ahead and add that and say the contract closing date is going to be the 28th of February. So now we've added some dates here. This now gives us the opportunities we talked about up here to sort this by date. And what it does is it leaves everything else in the order it was created, but it puts all the fields that have a date in chronological order here. Furthermore, this allows us to go in and take a good look at the calendar view up here. Click on the calendar view, and now you see those dates here on in the calendar. I think this is particularly powerful because you can come in here and the earnest money latest deposit date. Well, that's critical. If that doesn't happen on time, that we're out of contract. The financing application, if that's not done in time, my client loses the ability to have a financing contingency. And let's say the inspection scheduled date, will mark that yellow. So that gives us the opportunity to have priorities for the calendar. Then we jump over here to the calendar view. You can see that those have transferred over here. If something changes, let's say that they've made their financing application, we can simply grab this. Let's say they did that this date. We can come up here and now we could mark it green. And it's not showing here because we were hiding the completed. Click on this button here, and there you can see it. So this is an interactive calendar, allows you to change dates, move things around, and have a good visual representation of what has to happen. Let's go back here to our regular view. So we've covered dates. I'm going to come back and switch this back into my default view. We also have the ability here to add notes. And notes are primarily designed for you to keep track of just important bits of information that you have about this particular checklist. It could just be a person you might have talked to, something you want to come back to and be able to remember it later. But you also can type in a note here and choose to notify one of your teammates. So I could select that I want Janice to be notified, and what will happen then is Janice will receive a notification on her homepage when she logs in that I left her a note that I would like her to read. Additionally, at the task level, we can come in here and the ellipsis on the far right, 3 dots, you click on that and you have more options. I can delete a task, I can edit the task, I can make the text bold, so if I want to have something jump out, I can do that, or I can insert a new task. So that's how easy it is to come in and edit these checklists and make them your own. I'm going to go back and delete this task. sure you want to do that? You bet I do. Additionally, as the owner of the checklist, I have the ellipsis up here that covers the whole checklist. And because I started this checklist, which is why my name is here, if it was this checklist were owned by Janice, it would have her name up here. And this ellipsis wouldn't show up because it only shows up for the person who is the owner of this particular checklist. And that gives me the right to edit the name and the description, to manage members, to save this as a PDF if I want to save it for later, to save this as a template, or to delete the entire checklist. Again, those are only options available to me. Now this template thing, let's talk about that for a minute. That's really a powerful tool because this happens to be a checklist that came right from our library. And you might not like the way it's laid out. You might want to add things or delete things. So you would come in here, make all the changes you'd like to how you would want to use this checklist, come back up to this menu and say Save as a Template. Now this is, we don't want to save it as a Ruby Sue Johnson purchase, but we could save this as a purchase contract. We don't want to have an address showing up here, but we can again give it a description if we want. We don't have to, but we can save this. And what's happened now is this entire list is now saved here in my templates. And because it's in my templates, I can come back at a later date and I can reuse this for my next buyer, my next purchase and sale agreement. The share button allows you to take a checklist that you've developed and send a copy to someone else. So you could have maybe another person you're working with, another agent in your office if you're a real estate agent, and you can share this template. But primarily this is to save a checklist so you can come back and use it later. So that basically covers most of the ways you can use a checklist. You can add a new checklist here, or as I mentioned, you can add a checklist there. Manage members allows you to come in here and you can delete people you've already decided to work with on this particular checklist, and this checklist that they're collaborating on will then disappear from their home screen. You can, again, as we mentioned, invite new users, but let me show you now the difference between a partial collaborator and a full collaborator. So we have this checklist for Ruby Sue, where Janice is a partial collaborator and she's been assigned tasks. So I'm going to go over here and jump into Janice's here and refresh her screen. And now you see, next time she logs in, she's going to see that she has a new checklist here. She's going to have a notification that there's a new checklist that she's been added on, and it's going to show up new here. So let's go in and see what Janice will see. Because she's a partial collaborator, she only sees the 4 tasks that have been assigned to her. And she has limited things that she can do. She can pretty much just edit the task. She can add dates to her tasks, and she can add a note to her task. And she can also notify other members about that note. But she doesn't have access to the rest of the checklist, nor does she have access to the calendar view. This is a limited partial collaborator. Now I want to show you how it's different when it comes to a full collaborator. So if you recall, when you go back up here to managing members, I have Curly active as a full collaborator. So let's go look at what Curly sees. So Curly comes in here, and here's the checklist. But when Curly goes in, unlike the partial collaborator, Curly gets to see the entire checklist. Everything that's here. Curly can go in and can change assignments, can add dates, can add notes, edit to its heart's content. Again, see the calendar for this particular checklist. So again, full functionality. The one difference though is the ellipsis up here doesn't show up. And if you recall, the ellipsis allows the owner to delete the checklist, change the name, delete members, manage members. So there's some things that the full collaborator can't do, but the full collaborator basically has full access to the entire checklist. Now let's go back to my sheet. So here we are. So we've covered the levels of collaborators. Let's go back now and look at our list of active checklists. Janice has also shared with me the Smith under contract, so now I can come in and see what she has selected for me. Here's the entire checklist because she selected me as a full collaborator. Now we also have what's called priority view, and that's available from the dashboard as well. Priority tasks and priority view takes you to the same place. What this does is it comes in and shows us only the urgent and important tasks on checklists that have those types of tasks. So here they are. Again, I have the same sort mechanisms here. I have the same filter available here, but this allows me to come in and look at just those items that are urgent and important. Same functionality. I can mark them done, in which case they disappear off this list. I can change the date, change the assignment, add notes. This allows me to stay focused on just the urgent and important items. If I do want to go to the full list, if for some reason I'm looking at this, I can hit that button over there and go to see the full list. So that's how we use the priority view. Let's talk for a minute about new checklists. If you want to open a new checklist, you can do it from scratch. And I have another video posted in the help section about how to upload. But again, this allows you very quickly to come in and just add a number of tasks and type them in individually. And when you're done, select use. Once you're using it, you have more options to continue editing it by making text bold, inserting new items, or deleting an item. But that's how easy it is to do there. The upload feature, you need to upload a text file, and again, there's another video that shows how to do that. So that's how you open from scratch. If you have a saved template, you can simply go in there, and here's our library. If you go into the library, you can browse around, find particular checklists you might be interested in. The detail button allows you to just go in and take a look and see if it's appropriate for your needs. So you can come in here, here's this one, and you have the detail, so I can choose to use this, which will make it an active checklist, or go back to the library and see what else is available. Also from the library, I can simply come in and click the use button, which will make it an active checklist. So that covers the main features of the double check system. Hope you enjoy using this. If you have any questions, please get back to us. Love to hear from you. Thank you.